So 10:32 to Lower Manhattan we go. Eric Trump entered the courtroom about an hour ago. He's back on the witness stand, day 2 for him, and that $250 million fraud trial against his father's real estate empire. Nate Foy, watching, listening, joins us now. What's happened so far, Nate?
Bill, good morning. Eric Trump took the stand just about 5 minutes ago. He's the only witness today, so when his testimony concludes, the court will break until Monday when his father, former President Donald Trump, will take the stand himself. Now, Trump, Eric Trump, and Donald Trump Jr. are all co-defendants in this trial. In day 1 of Eric's direct examination, the state focused on a clip from his deposition talking about Trump's Seven Springs estate in Westchester, New York. The state presented emails showing Eric working with an appraiser to value the property. Eric then said he was involved to a very small point, but that he never focused on appraisals. He said it was a handful of emails from about 10 years ago. Ivanka Trump will testify in the trial next Wednesday. The state court denied her request to avoid taking the stand. She'll be the last witness called by the state before Trump's lawyers call their own witnesses. And Bill, a contentious moment at the end of court yesterday. Justice Arthur Engoron threatened to expand the partial gag order to include attorneys after Trump lawyer Chris Kise made a comment about the judge's law clerk. Kise argued the two appeared biased by passing notes to each other during testimony. The judge said he has an absolute unfettered right to consult with his law clerk. Now, witnesses, Bill, are not allowed to speak to the media while they're actively testifying, but Eric Trump will be free to say whatever he wants when his testimony concludes.
All right, we'll wait for that. Thanks, Nate. Nice to see you. Nate Foy, Lower Manhattan. Thank you. Dana.
Well, Shannon Bream is the host of Fox News Sunday. And Shannon, as our legal eagle, can you catch us up on this case? What's going on? When it will wrap up? Do we have like another week of this?
Yeah, we do know next week's going to get very interesting. As Nate mentioned, former President Trump is expected to take the stand, and Ivanka Trump, who, by the way, was dismissed as a co-defendant in this case, but she's going to have to testify. She appealed that decision, and she lost on appeal, which means we expect to see her on the stand as well. So all of the big names, they're showing up. You see that the Attorney General is showing up there, Letitia James as well, because this is really the headline-making part of the trial. So all of that will continue through next week, and we'll see. I'm not sure what the big timeline is for it, but the crux of the really critical testimony and big name witnesses is certainly going to extend at least another week.
Okay. All right. Now let's turn to the Middle East here. I want to ask you a question about how Americans feel about it. Before I do that, Nasrallah is saying that the threats from the U.S. don't scare us. This is the Hezbollah leader in Lebanon. He said those who made the attacks against you in the early 80s when the U.S. Marines were blown up in that barracks in southern Lebanon under Ronald Reagan, he said they're still alive. So, I mean, at least by word, Shannon, he's being threatening, but not so much by action. Quinnipiac found this. Are you concerned the U.S. will be drawn into a military conflict in the Middle East? 84% say yes.
Yeah, and they should have good reason. When you have somebody on the northern border where there have been incursions back and forth, and listen, Israel says we are completely prepared for anything to come from any border. We're ready. And they signal they're ready to go. Hezbollah keeps saying, well, it all depends on what happens in Gaza. Well, I don't think Israel, as we've seen from the ongoing conversations with our own leader, Secretary Blinken being over there, have any intention of pausing what they're doing when it comes to respect to Hamas in Gaza. So if that's going to be Hezbollah's red line, I don't think we can expect that that's going to temper what Israel is doing in any way. So part of what Secretary Blinken is doing there is cautioning they don't want another front to open in this war. And it sounds like Hezbollah at least is very much saber rattling and suggesting that they're ready to go. And as we've outlined for viewers, and you guys have done very well, Hezbollah is a totally different situation than Hamas. They're much more well equipped militarily with missiles, with personnel. It's a much bigger organization. So that is a front that almost nobody wants to see open up in this war as well.
Dan Senor was our guest earlier, and he said that they also have received a lot of great training, for military training, because of the fighting in Syria. This weekend, you will have House Speaker Mike Johnson on your show on Fox News Sunday, and there's a lot of questions you have for him. I imagine that Israel funding and Ukraine aid is going to be one of them.
Yeah, and so he led this effort. The House GOP, of course, has passed this standalone Israel funding measure, taking the money from the IRS. And he has said, because he knows there's a lot of pressure on the Senate side as well, we're going to do Ukraine funding. Maybe that gets coupled up with border funding or something else. But over on the Senate side, you've got the top Senate Republican and Democrat in step with the White House. They want that $106 billion package to include everything: Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, the border. So we'll talk with Johnson about how he navigates that and the fact that, you guys know we're running out of money in 14 days again.
I also saw
I had forgotten about that, actually. That is right.
Dana,
14 days.
It's coming.
It's going to be a rocket.
Yeah. How's he going to navigate that?
Mike DeWine, the governor from Ohio, is going to be your guest, too. We're going to watch that referendum come Tuesday because they're going to vote on abortion in Ohio. And we're going to see how that goes. Marijuana, they can tell us a lot about, perhaps, some of these red states now, how they feel about that issue being thrown back to them. Shannon, have an awesome show. We'll see you on Sunday. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.